Have you ever heard of a Spectre battalion marching into battle and vanishing without a trace? In the midst of cannon fire in 1863, Confederate and Union soldiers alike swore they saw a regiment clad in dark uniforms, leveled rifles glinting like phantom steel, only to disappear into the smoke. Some say they were secret government experimentals. Others call them cursed. Today we uncover the truth behind the Civil War's most elusive unit. Now, to understand how this phantom unit emerged from the chaos, we need to rewind to the summer of 1863. Picture a muddy Shenandoah Valley dotted with ragged tents, the air heavy with gunpowder and the distant rattle of musket fire. Union supply lines stretched thin, Confederate farms lay abandoned, and both armies were desperate for reinforcements. Newspapers blared headlines like, "New battalions rally for North," or "Reinforcements die in Virginia swamps," fueling rumors on both sides that fresh troops were arriving. Except no one could quite confirm where they came from. Imagine a weary private wiping sweat from his brow, complaining that his uniform itches worse than a mosquito bite, when suddenly a lieutenant gallops through the camp, eyes wild, shouting about a ghost group marching through enemy lines. At the same time, local farmers swore they saw armed men drifting through cornfields at dusk, chanting in unidentifiable dialects. Some speculated they were Confederate deserters cobbled together into a secret unit. Others whispered about Union operatives testing new psychological warfare tactics. In towns across Maryland and Virginia, tavern patrons traded stories of strange midnight drills, columns of soldiers appearing at ridgelines, rifles raised in unison, then fading into the fog as if swallowed by the earth itself. Even newspapers hinted at secret test platoons, joking that if a soldier saw one of these units, he should check his eyesight or his burial plot. Meanwhile, impoverished draft-age men swapped drinking songs about Spectre soldiers who vanished whenever an officer tried counting their numbers. By 1863, the war had become a grinding machine. Both generals and gossip mongers seized on any advantage or sensational tale that might lift morale. Behind the humor and half-truths, though, lay a genuine mystery. Reports of a fully armed regiment materializing on battlefields, engaging in skirmishes, and then disappearing without leaving a single prisoner or corpse. What were they really doing? Why did the official records remain frustratingly silent? As whispers grew louder, ordinary soldiers began to question if these ghosts were more than just myth. Let's peel back the fog and step into that fateful night when the ghost group truly earned its name. It all began just after dusk on a ridge above Winchester, Virginia, when Sergeant Elijah Harper, a no-nonsense northerner known for polishing his boots until they shone, reported something impossible. He insisted he watched a column of roughly 200 soldiers, clad in dark gray like Confederate infantry but moving with eerie precision, emerge from the tree line. Their rifles gleamed under the moonlight as they advanced, paused, then fired volley after volley into a nearby encampment, where, curiously, not a single soldier was wounded. When Harper's men raced over the hill, they found no bodies, no blood, nothing but spent cartridges. And the footprints? They led straight into a thicket and vanished. Fast forward a week to the abandoned mill outside Martinsburg, where Clue B surfaced, those mysterious markings on the brick wall. Corporal Mary Mac McDowell, one of the few women disguised as a drummer boy, snatched a torch to reveal odd symbols scrawled in charcoal. A circle intersected by 5 vertical dashes, followed by a crude arrow pointing northeast. Mac, ever the skeptic, muttered, "Looks like someone's idea of doodling while hiding," but a local historian recognized the symbols as variations of Native American pictographs rumored to mark secret rendezvous points. Whether those markings were left by the alleged ghost group or by someone playing tricks on superstitious troops, nobody knew, though Mac swore the symbols glowed faintly when she passed by at midnight. Rewind to January 1864, and here comes Clue C. The night railway echoes near Harper's Ferry. Private Jonas Wright, a rail engineer before he enlisted, volunteered to inspect abandoned tracks where Union supplies once rolled. At around 2 a.m., he wrote in his journal, "Heard the hiss of steam and the clatter of wheels, but saw no engine. Looked through the darkness and saw lanterns bobbing along the rails. Men wearing uniforms darker than any I've seen. When I called out, their lanterns blew out as if snuffed by unseen hands. No whistle, no steam, just the distant echo of iron wheels. I thought I was hallucinating until I came across a single boot print on the tie, then nothing. Meanwhile, oral records, Clue D, grew wilder. In small Maryland taverns, old-timers claimed the ghost group was comprised of criminal inmates offered pardons if they fought for a month. One saloon story told of a convict named Fletcher Red Bartholomew, who barely escaped hanging for horse theft. He supposedly led the unit under a false identity and vanished with the rest, leaving only the thickest bloodstain any surgeon had ever seen. Yet no body was ever recovered. The tavern barkeep swore Bartholomew's voice still echoed in the rafters at closing time, begging for one last drink. So what ties these tales together? A ridgeline ambush with no bodies, cryptic pictographs on mill walls, phantom trains at midnight, and convicts turned soldiers disappearing into the cold air. Were these mere coincidences? Or was someone orchestrating an elaborate cover-up? And why would a regiment dissolve like smoke under daylight? To make sense of these eerie episodes, let's dig into the archives and see how fact and folklore tangled like knotted rifle straps. First up, the Winchester Ridge incident. Official Union dispatches list a minor skirmish near Confederate skirmishers, but no mention of a phantom regiment. Yet military records from the Shenandoah Valley Mining Bureau note a contract for large quantities of charcoal and timber delivered to an unmarked encampment on the same ridge. Odd for winter, when wood was reserved for heating, not building. Could someone have been constructing a hidden bivouac to stage illusions for both armies? Next, we turn to expert interviews. Dr. Abigail "Abby" Turner, a Civil War archaeologist famed for finding a lost cavalry saber beneath a tobacco barn, examined the ghost train site. She scoured the Harper's Ferry rails with ground-penetrating radar and discovered the faint outline of a narrow-gauge spur, long since removed beneath the dirt. Abby quipped, "It's like someone wanted wheels to roll without leaving evidence of their path." Her colleagues suspect Confederate sympathizers salvaged iron rails under cover of darkness, then staged phantom trains to spook Yankee supply convoys into retreat. If so, who staffed those phantom crews? Prisoners? Local laborers paid in whiskey? The plot thickens, literally, rail ties soaked in moonlight and rumor, onto the million symbols. Local historian Samuel Price traced the pictographs to a small band of Lenape guides who were thought to be working for Union scouts early in the war. Price theorizes that the ghost group repurposed indigenous symbols to mislead pursuers, marking safe paths or hidden caches. Yet when he visited the site in 1864, German immigrant mill owner Johann Kramer reported bulldozers had torn out the foundation to install new flour machinery, erasing crucial evidence. Kramer swore he found half-erased symbols, but dismissed them as juvenile pranks, until his son fell ill, describing nightly whispers outside the mill saying, "Follow the shadows, find the rest." Could the Lenape pictographs point to unrecorded caches of arms? Or were they deliberate decoys? Then there's the convict hypothesis. Inmate ledger entries from Luray Penitentiary mention 20 men loaned to the War Department in November 1863, vanished from the rolls weeks later with no return date. Prison warden's notes dryly record, "Men dispatched for hazardous duty, casualties unspecified." One such inmate, Red Bartholomew, supposedly walked free. Hearing rumors he was seen wearing a lieutenant's insignia and carrying letters sealed with Union Eagle stamps. Researchers uncovered a letter between clerks suggesting the War Department promised full pardons for convicts if they joined a special operations battalion. If that's true, perhaps these prisoners formed the core of the ghost group and were deliberately abandoned once their mission ended. A rogue wartime experiment with expendable manpower? It certainly raises ethical eyebrows harder than a stiff Union salute. Still, some points defy clean categorization. Why did no eyewitnesses ever report Confederate soldiers backing up the ghost group's actions? Why are there no confirmed prisoner of war records for those captured or killed? And why do local folktales insist the unit vanished in a swirl of blue haze, as if slipping through reality itself? At this point, the official explanation seems as tangled as the battlefield's tangled telegraph wires. A mix of Confederate ghost tactics, absent-minded archivists, and opportunistic storytellers. But the lingering question remains, who ordered this experiment, and did someone want the truth to vanish along with the men? So what do we find in this maze of shadows and smoke? The most convincing theory holds that Confederate sympathizers and Union officials secretly conscripted prisoners of war to participate in covert operations. These prisoners were treated as casualties after the mission was completed to conceal the existence of the battalion. The ghost train was likely a carefully planned incident, and the mill symbol was a disguise borrowed from local guides to cover the hidden stash. However, even this explanation leaves some obscurity. The firefights on the ridges without bodies, the whispered chants in the empty fields, and the blood that dissipated like morning mist. Perhaps the real ghost troops were never meant to fight, but to haunt the memories of those who witnessed them. Perhaps someone in the upper echelons believed that the fear of an invisible enemy was as powerful as a bullet. The question remains, if this battalion never existed on paper, did they really exist? Or are they destined to be just legends, forever wandering on the margins of history? If you've heard other stories about ghost soldiers, or have your own ideas about what really happened in Shenandoah Mountain, please leave your comments below. Don't forget to subscribe to learn more about forgotten chapters of history. If you believe there are more secrets hidden behind these Civil War shadows, please like this video. Next week, we'll head to the Gulf of Mexico to explore the legend of the underwater city, an even older secret waiting to be discovered.